Good morning and welcome to our Murray County Chamber and Economic Alliance virtual breakfast with the city mayors. I'm Will Evans, president of the organization. Just to recap, we did start these events in 2019 by hosting an individual live event with each mayor, inclusive of the county mayor and city mayors. This year, in February, we were able to have one of those events with County Mayor Andy Ogles. However, given the recent impacts of COVID over the last few months, which I'm sure will come up several times this morning in our conversations, we were unable to host the individual events with our city mayors, so we did want to bring them together today in this format, and we're excited to be able to pivot and bring this to our membership and our community. I want to thank our sponsor, JAYNES Media, Professional Visual Content Solutions. Not only are they our sponsor, but they are doing the production this morning. So they help you tell your story better. So feel free to learn more about them on social media, JAYNES Media, and then JAYNESmedia.com. Also want to thank our event host, MULETOWN Collective, co-working space located here in the Columbia Arts District, third floor of the Columbia Arts Building. With this being an event with our elected officials, I think it's an appropriate time to remind everybody of the upcoming elections in November. Locally, obviously, we're going to have Columbia City Council up for election, Mount Pleasant commissioners, state senators and reps, in addition to the national elections. And in an effort to keep our membership educated and informed on our candidates at the local and state level, we are putting together a candidate questionnaire, which we have done in the past, for those city seats as well as the state seats. And then just a few dates to remind you, coming up, October 5th is the last day to register to vote for that election. October 14th through 24th will be early voting, and then, of course, November 3rd will be the election day. Right, so we'll get things started just a little bit. This is going to be a little different than having an individual conversation with each mayor. I tried to draft some questions that should provide an opportunity for each municipality to address, so I'll just kind of ask them and call on you guys individually. There may be some questions that are specific to each of you, and I'll identify those. And then for those of you viewing online, please use the comment section to ask any questions that you would like to ask, and we will work to get to those time allowing at the end. So let's go ahead and get things started. Just kind of get the format rolling. I'll just start with Mayor White down at the end, and we'll work our way. Just give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourself. Obviously, those in your municipality may be very familiar with who you are, but if you're in Mount Pleasant, you may not be as familiar with Mayor Graham, and so on. So just give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about why you got into this role.
Bill White, mayor of Mount Pleasant, Tennessee, have been for a couple of years, and yes, I am up for election again this year. Mount Pleasant's moving forward in a very nice way over the last couple of years, just trying to do things a little differently, think out of the box occasionally. So that's been very interesting, and it's I think it's beginning to pay dividends for us. As everybody knows, the city has been strapped with sewer issues since 1982. We're finally just about to put that to bed at a very large cost, but it's got to be done. One of the greatest things that happened with that, though, was that we wound up getting the largest grant that USDA has ever offered in the state of Tennessee, $2.7 million, and that's non-matching, and that is critical to a community our size. So all in all, we're in a good place. We're moving forward.
Mayor Mulder.
Well, thank you, Mayor White and Mayor Rick Graham. It's always an honor when we have the Mount Pleasant and the Spring Hill mayors both in the city of Columbia. Welcome to town. We're glad you're here. It's an honor also to be here in the Columbia Arts District in the Columbia Arts Building. This area of town in Columbia is one that we've put a lot of focus on in the last several years as a city, and we're just really excited of the vibrancy and the potential that this arts district represents, particularly this Columbia Arts Building and the MULETOWN Collective third floor that we're on today. Less than a decade ago, this building was dark, and you would drive by and there was no life, there was no light. It was really just not much going on in the building and in the area as a whole. And today you drive through this part of town and you're driving through a vibrant arts district and a building that has a lot of life and a lot of just really forward-thinking creators on the inside of these walls. And so it's a special honor and privilege today to be coming to you from the Columbia Arts Building. The city of Columbia is doing very good, I would say, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all been dealing with this year that has caused budget problems and health concerns. We were well positioned going in for something such as this nature, and we remain well positioned even at this current stage. There's a lot of forward progress in this community, but we're also trying to have that forward progress in a way that is looking for the long ball and not just focused on the short term, recognizing that with growth sometimes comes challenges, but with those challenges are also opportunities to make sure we're growing in a way that we can all be proud of. Just in particular, a project that we're working on in the city of Columbia, since Mayor White mentioned one, is the LED lights. And every street light in the city of Columbia over the next 6 months will be transformed from the current light that it is to an LED light. And like we like to say in Columbia, our light's shining pretty bright already, but with these LED lights, we think the community will be shining even brighter. And so we're really excited about that project. And we're excited to be here today and talk about other projects and how we can continue to partner together, because I'll close with this. The partnership that we have between these three municipalities and the mayors and the friendships that we have, I think only means that makes our own communities better, and we can continue to be a leader in this region.
Thank you. Mayor Graham?
Yes, well, Spring Hill's doing quite well, as our two neighbors here. My term ends in April. We'll have a city election come April, and in April, that'll be 14 years on the board for me and Ada's mayor, and I'm not running again. It'll be my last time, so everybody in the city pretty much knows that as far as Spring Hill. We're doing well also. The COVID pandemic, even though we budgeted what we call bare bones, ends up, our sales tax revenues are actually up over last year. We took a 20% reduction in sales tax revenue and we're 10 up. So we're actually 30% more than we budgeted for. So it's nice that we're going to be able to do some budget amendments and have some money to allocate probably on some other projects soon. But we're doing quite well, and I'm sure we'll touch on a few things as we go.
Yeah, well, great transition. I'll kind of jump around on some of my prepared questions. Obviously, we know COVID is on the forefront of everybody's mind right now, so I do have some specific questions around that and impacts. We'll kind of go into that. The first one is initial impacts on the budget, and then how you're seeing that, which you just addressed on a little bit, Mayor Graham. Is there anything before we go down the line that you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Just that, the nice thing about this is, we actually get to, instead of projecting revenues, we'll actually have revenues in the bank, so it's a little bit, it makes it easier to budget when you know how much you got. And so this is going to help us as a board to help with some of these allocations. And again, and all of it may not be roads this time. We have invested so much and done so many things for our top 10 road projects, which I'm sure we'll touch on in the next hour. But also, Spring Hill's got to start looking at other things besides roads. We got parks, land preservation, and our downtown area needs a plan of service too for the future.
Right, okay. Mayor Mulder, COVID impacts on budget?
Yeah, I think the good thing about the City of Columbia budget is that it has a staff and a team that's dedicated to making sure that they present a budget to council that is fiscally responsible. And we have a very good team on our finance department at the City of Columbia, led, of course, by the city manager, Tony Massey, but also Thad Jablonski, who have presented a budget that we passed earlier this year that was very fiscally responsible. And I think that's, again, what sums it up for all of us. There were not a whole lot of projects and capital projects that were improved in the budget because we wanted to pass, just as Mayor Graham stated, a bare bones budget. But we are starting to see some glimmers of hope coming through sources of revenue. And there has been a UT economist, Bill Fox, who has cautioned the municipalities and counties from getting overly optimistic with this short-term good news. So we're still being very cautious in our approach. However, I think that if you're going to see continued revenue streams that we have been seeing, we'll have an opportunity to do some of the important projects. And for me and for my priority, that is including making sure that we take care of our employees. City employees across the entire country have been among our first responders and frontline workers, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we take care of those workers, which would include cost of living increases at a very, very minimum, but also raises across the board. And so that's one priority of mine that I'm hoping that we'll see in the upcoming several months.
Same here, Mount Pleasant. We've experienced a 23% increase in our sales tax, which has been very nice to see, but I'm much like Mayor Mulder is, we're not holding to that for the rest of the year because we think that may be short term. Same here with employees. They are critical. We have found out the hard way over the last few days with the flooding, and we've got to make sure we take care of them because they are certainly taking care of our community. We did the same, bare bones, got it approved very quickly. We're not spending money we don't have yet because I think we all three understand that. It may be up right now, but where's it going?
That's right.
And so we're all being cautious with that. But all in all, during this pandemic, I'm very proud of how our city has reacted. Everybody being cautious, but yet being optimistic.
Okay, great. Mayor Mulder, we'll start with you on this next one. Again, still kind of staying in that COVID lane. Regarding changes or adjustments that the city's had to make for staffing and specific policy, what types of impact has that had?
Well, I think particularly during the beginning of the pandemic and even through Governor Lee's executive orders that included stay-at-home and or suggested stay-at-home orders, the city was sort of in peak mode of making sure we were complying with those executive orders. And in fact, that's sort of been our intention all along, is to try to comply with what the governor was setting forward. We know the governor has a team around him and the Tennessee Department of Health, and so we have felt best to sort of take their recommendations seriously and also make sure we were doing exactly what they were telling us to do. And so during those initial executive orders that included stay-at-home and only essential workers, we did have a very good plan in place led by Tony Massey to make sure that we were complying, including having some workers stay home, obviously making sure folks were quarantined that had been exposed, and certainly those who had been in a confirmed case. We've been pretty fortunate, knock on wood. We have had some in our first responders, including fire and police, which obviously is always a concern, and some just across the city as a whole. But I think today what we're doing is trying to be responsible and, again, trying to adhere to the governor's orders. You know, we do have face masks available at City Hall. We do have hand sanitizing stations. We encourage social distanced for folks who come to meetings, et cetera. And so I think the point on all this, though, is that nobody really knows. We all want to do the right thing, but we all also want to get back to a sense of normalcy. And where that normalcy is, it's, I think, just still too early to tell.
Okay. Mayor White?
Same here. We went to, when the order started coming down, we were paying very close attention to it, and Kate Collier, our city manager as well, has done a fantastic job of managing our employees through that. We cut back to split shifts on that so that we still got the essential parts done within our community, but we made sure we did it very cautiously so that we kept our people out of harm's way as much as we possibly could. It has been, again, I can't thank our employees enough for how cautious they have been. Mm-hmm. We've done the same thing City Hall. We've limited the number of people that can come in at any one time. Hand sanitizer, face mask. We've been very cautious, and we have encouraged our local businesses to do the same.
Okay. Mayor Graham?
Yes, it's been pretty much the same as the other two cities. Our city employees have done an excellent job. Victor Lay, our city administrator, has done well with administrating all the precautions and changes and such. And I will say that as city employees, we've been doing more and more work from home type situation. Well, this really pushes toward that more. So I believe in the future we're going to see more of that for city employees, but also our citizens. I think a lot more. It's going to be interesting. I think this pandemic has created a paradigm of a lot of corporations that are seeing that they don't have to bring these people into downtown Nashville to work. They can work from home. And so we may see more of that going out. I think it really is a change. Spring Hill already had a large percentage of business community people that worked from home. A couple years ago, I think we had 250-something, we're much more than that now, business permits, but only 50 was brick and mortar. Wow. So the other ones were pretty much, working from home. And I believe yesterday there was a ranking out that had Spring Hill as the most attractive place in Tennessee for work from home. And I believe we're like number 9 in the country or something like that. So I believe that that works well with our mission, because we're wanting to be less of a bedroom community, with those office buildings and types in Spring Hill, which also reduces traffic and commuting. So that works well.
Yeah, and just to kind of add that, I mean, we're seeing that, I think, an advantage for the community moving forward. Being the economic development agency, we're going to see some companies pivot, and I think that's going to put all of Maury County in a very unique position moving forward, where we might not have been in a traditional environment.
Will, actually, if I could just add to
Yep.
that, in the last 6 weeks, I have run into 2 individuals, families, who have moved from a large city to Nashville, because that transition for them was a transition that made sense because they wanted to downsize from the big city. And then I've also run into 2 families who have moved from Nashville to Columbia because they no longer had to work downtown. They were full-time remote, and they wanted to live in a smaller setting, maybe buy a little bit bigger house and have a different quality of life that was a little bit slower pace. And so I think all 3 of our communities are going to really benefit from that, and that presents some challenges, but I think also some opportunities.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, last COVID-specific question, then we'll get off the top there. Just simple, what's your greatest concern moving forward as we kind of get into the latter part of the year around the pandemic? Start with Mayor Graham.
Largest concern moving forward, maybe think probably just getting back to the normal. Mayor Mueller was talking about, 'cause I think we're seeing, people be very anxious to get back to normal, or what will be normal after this is over. And just continuing that transition. And I think it's important that we continue to do it as we have since March, with good intentions, but also very cautious, but we don't want to rush into anything just to get back to normal quickly.
Yeah.
But also we have to consider people's lives and their situations and our business community.
Right. Mayor Mulder, yeah.
Well, I don't think I can just say one. I'm going to have to say 2.
Go ahead.
First of all, I think I have a concern that we let our foot off the gas pedal too soon. We're all getting sort of COVID weary and just some of the things that we're being told and the negative that we're hearing. It's sort of like we're just ready for it to be over with. And so it's just, it's not going to go away just because we're ready for it to go away. And, what we've got to think of whenever we're tired and sick of hearing about it is the fact that the hospital has 20 patients currently at Murray Regional, the fact that the nurses and medical providers are having to care for those individuals and subjecting their own selves to exposure. We've got to think about those first responders as well. And so when we're getting COVID weary, we think about those folks, but that's concern number 1. And I think the other sort of overall concern for me is the fact that this pandemic is dividing us, I think, as a society, and we see it on social media. We see people that have opinions, and then their opinions turn into what they believe are so strong they're willing to fight over it, and then all of a sudden you have this very just divisiveness on social media and in the community as a whole. And what my hope and prayer is that no matter where you may feel about the seriousness of the pandemic, understand that your neighbor may have a different opinion and that we can agree to disagree at times. But it's particularly in the upcoming presidential elections, as we'll be sort of in peak political divisiveness mode, let's just remember what's important is our community, and here locally what we have is so special. And let's not make that go away because of a medical pandemic that we disagree about. Right. So that's sort of my concern, is just the unity factor that I wish we could get back to.
Okay.
I'm like our 2 other mayors, is that we're all ready to get back to normal. I'm going to be brief in this, but let's not throw caution to the wind.
That's right.
Let's do this very systematically and in a way that we don't wind up just throwing caution to the wind.
That's sort of my concern, is just the
We can
unity
do this
factor
the
that
right way.
I wish we could get back to.
Great, well, thank you. All right, moving into some more general, so in specific to each of your community, what would you peg as the greatest opportunity for it right now? And I'll start with you, Mayor White.
Let's do this very systematically. Without question, it's a great part of our community's Cherry Glen. We continue to see visits, as you know well, and it is, Mount Pleasant is an industrial town, always has been. Cherry Glen is a wonderful asset to that as we move forward, and it continues to be. So I would see that as our greatest opportunity. Again, in a way to get to that is, and I hate to keep talking about it, but our sewer project's gonna get us way down the road. Understanding what we've been dealing with since 1982. So, with the industry and getting our infrastructure in place to support that industry, I think that's our greatest opportunity. Without question, I would see that as our
Well, like Mayor White, I'm very optimistic about our industrial park that the Murray Alliance was very helpful on, and other economic development projects that are being pursued, and I'm very, very excited about what opportunities present there. But I think for me, the fact that Columbia is so well positioned in terms of just our budgeting position, our infrastructure capabilities to sustain the growth that we know is coming, I think that is what I believe is our greatest opportunity, is our ability for the growth. Now, there's no question that we have. There are problems that come with the growth, and if anybody's driven on Highway 31 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, north or south, there's some congestion issues. But that's going to continue to be an issue regardless. So I think just from an infrastructure standpoint, we are well positioned for growth, and that's our greatest opportunity.
Now you're starting to get into my next question. Mayor Graham?
All right. Biggest opportunity for Spring Hill. We, being in a two-county city, municipality, is always challenging for us, but we're well used to it. People ask us all the time what it's like, but we're so, it's been a long time. But our south part, the Murray side of Spring Hill, I still call it, it's the blank canvas, and we still have a lot of growth opportunity, and our growth is moving that way already big time as far as the percentages of permits and just even commercial and other developments. But with that, we want to make sure we learned from our past. The northern part of Spring Hill, the Williamson side, we went through those turbo growth years. We got behind on the infrastructure. We're playing all that catch up now. We have $120 million in road projects in the works on in Spring Hill due to catching up with that infrastructure. We don't want to do that again on the south side. But along with that, besides making sure we do the right things and have the smart growth on the south side, also is preservation of land. And that was not meant, wasn't in the cards for my administration. My administration, my time on the board's been getting the roads set and going. Unfortunately, the downtown area and the preservation of land, because it's South Spring Hill, it's going to be gone. In 20 years, growth's going to overtake it, just like the northern side. So I'm heavily encouraging the city, and after the time I leave, we need to buy some land. We have to come up with some ways to be creative, maybe work with landowners, maybe some land trust type deals. But we have to do that now because it will not be there later.
Great. Then to flip that question, what do you see as your community's greatest challenge? And start with you, Graham, work way down, Mayor.
Okay, greatest challenge, probably the next 4 years, getting those road projects all finished up, completed. We've got the funding mechanisms in place now. We did a property tax increase last year for the first time since 2007, when we went from zero. We had zero property tax when I was elected as an alderman. And then we did not do another tax increase until this one. And our citizens, I didn't get one email complaining about the property tax increase because every penny of it's going to those $120 million road projects. So for 10 cents, and people realized and they understood that if they gave up one cup of coffee a week, that pretty much paid for it. And so with that now, we did obtain a $25 million grant for our interstate interchange, but the city donations or our contribution toward those projects is quite large. And so that's probably our biggest challenge now is getting those road projects, get them to completion.
Mayor Mulder?
Well, we, like Spring Hill and Mount Pleasant, have some long-term capital project needs that are going to be quite extensive, and including relating to our wastewater department that we know we need to address today so that 20 years from now, future mayors aren't sitting up here talking about the issues that Mayor White's talking about from 1982. But I think also our challenges would be, number one, making sure we're taking care of our employees so that we can keep the best of the best, because we feel like we have the best of the best, but we've got to continue to let them grow and let their work be paid for properly. And also recognizing that with growth does come certain challenges. And we're seeing a lot of annexation requests right now, a lot of rezoning requests, and there are a lot of individuals that will fight those annexations and rezones that live in those areas because they are accustomed to seeing open land and seeing a farm instead of seeing houses. And sure, perhaps because of the growth, we're sort of expediting the development in these housing projects, but that was going to come anyway. And so trying to sort of explain to the resident that might not like a house being built behind their house that was a farmland for 30 years is a challenge that we have, but it's a challenge that we've got to address because that's not slowing down anytime soon.
I don't like to keep talking about it, but infrastructure for us, roads, we've got a great number of roads in our community that need to be resurfaced. The issue that we have with that is that they have been resurfaced until they can't be resurfaced anymore. And so but I have also been very adamant about the fact that with the sewer project, one of the reasons I ran when I initially ran was I watched a brand new road be paved, and 2 days later they dug it up to put in a line. And I said, I think we can do a little better than this. So I have been adamant about, no, we're not going to do this road work until we get the infrastructure under it done right. So that's probably going to be our largest challenge over the next 2 or 3 years is just, we got the funding for the sewer side. Now how do we start working on making sure we've got the funding to get the paving done?
Okay. So I think everybody here has touched on the growth that we're experiencing, and there's a lot of projects that each community is working on. I've identified one project in each municipality I'll ask you for an update on, and then would ask for you to follow up with a couple of more projects that you just want to make sure the public is aware of. So we'll start, Mayor White, Mount Pleasant. So recently there was a grant awarded for some downtown revitalization and streetscape. Any update on that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we got an update on it this week. The drawings have been presented to us for us to review. The grant has been awarded, $1.5 million. It's for all the infrastructure downtown. You'll see our square change where now you can drive around. You won't be able to do that any longer. You'll still go through, but you won't be able to drive around. It's going to go from our First Avenue area up to Bond Street, which takes care of all of our downtown. You're going to see the LEDs, huge savings, tremendous savings what Columbia is going to experience with just the LEDs. So it's going to be great to see that. It's going to completely revitalize and change the downtown look, more family feel, great feeling. So that's really going to be, and we'll be happy to show you the early renderings. And if any of the residents would like to see that, we've got them at our City Hall. It's great to see. A couple of the other projects that we've got going, again, is just working on getting the infrastructure in place. I can't reiterate that enough. The infrastructure, and these gentlemen are experiencing it too. Please don't get behind the ball. It's almost, you just almost can't outrun it. So I just please keep your eye on that.
Okay. Mayor Mulder?
Is
Oh,
there-
sorry, yeah, you're right, yeah, thank you. West
about his
7th,
project.
West 7th Street, I'm sure
Okay,
you've heard
I knew
about
you
that
were
a
going to
couple
ask
times.
about
Yeah,
West
yeah.
7th Street. In fact, if you hadn't asked about it, I was going to update on it anyway because it is a frustratingly slow project. And of course, as many of you know, I live downtown and I work downtown. My kids go to school downtown. I mean, my bubble, the NBA bubble at Disney World, my bubble is downtown Columbia. So I drive that every day. And it is frustrating because it feels like the progress is just not what we wanted it to be. I did look at the numbers the other day, though. It was a 450-day project on paper via contract at the start date, and we actually just now have hit that 450 days within the last week or so. And when you consider the fact that we had a COVID-19 pandemic, for approximately 6 weeks they were pulled off the job completely, and then you consider the rainfall that we've had this year, which has been unusually high. To really be where we are and just now be at the end of the contract on paper is better than what I had suspected. When we last heard from the contractor, he estimated a November completion date. I don't believe at this point that a November completion date is in sight. I suspect it'll be somewhere in the first quarter of 2021. However, I will also say that you're starting to see sidewalks cut down West 7th Street, which is a sign of good progress. And very soon, the telephone poles, power poles will be coming down, which will be another indicator of progress. And really, the bulk of the major work has now been completed. I mean, the digging and the underground utilities, that was the major part of that project from an expense and a labor standpoint. And most of that is now behind us. And so the last phase of the project will go much more quickly than what we've seen in the first phase or two. So that's all I have to say about that. Real excited about, and Mayor Graham mentioned their new interstate interchange. The city of Columbia will see a revised, renovated interchange out of Bear Creek Pike. Just got briefed on that a couple weeks ago from TDOT. It will be a 3-year, $33 million project. It will result in new bridges at Bear Creek Pike, I-65 interchange, new on-ramp, off-ramps. We know from a safety perspective, that needs to be changed. It's actually been a project that's been on the horizon for close to 20 years. And ironically, it will be completed at or near the same time as the Spring Hill exit is, because that was a federal project. This is a state project, and so there's some other parameters there. But at the conclusion of the 3 years or so, Spring Hill will have a new interstate exit, and Columbia will have a newly renovated exit that will really help with that flow on the 65 corridor, which we know Columbia and Spring Hill particularly have a vested interest in. So we're excited about that. And then Mayor White mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, our LED light exchange, which we're very excited about. Overall, it will cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next several years, but we'll recoup, actually I should say, we'll save the city hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next several years, and so we're really excited about that.
Great. Mayor Graham, the children's home development, that's been a big topic up there over the last 6 to 12 months for sure. So
Yes.
Any updates on that?
Yep, and first, just want to say congratulations to the children's home, because it was a long road for them to be able to see a development eventually happen for that property. I think it was the third or fourth try. And so this enables them. I think they've already started breaking ground and building and doing things out on their new property. So it's a big boost for them. And as far as the development, it's going to be a very nice mixed-use type development. It will tie in very nicely. We think it'll transition into the older part of Spring Hill, which I started a downtown task force 2 or 3 years ago to start talking and working on ideas of like you guys are doing with the streetscape type program. In fact, the city, we're starting on the sidewalks within our sidewalk program here soon, within this year. And but the children's home development is going to be it's going to be a while. It's going to be a slow type transition, and 10, 20 years probably before that the property develops out. But it's going to be a nice addition and tie in very nicely to our, plus one of the things that we do not have that these two cities do is a city square. And so this will be the closest thing we will ever have to a city square type environment with this development.
Great. Okay, I'll quickly, because it's on the topic, transition to one of the questions we received from our viewers online, and that serves as a good reminder for those of you who are out there. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit those. With interest rates down currently and the likelihood of increased economic activity once COVID is under control, what capital projects would you like to see moving forward or kind of see in the pipeline that maybe aren't there now? And I'll just kind of throw that out to anybody who wants to start.
Well, I mean, fortunately, the city of Columbia is in a good cash position for a number of our sort of low-hanging fruit projects. We could fund pretty easily without having to worry about borrowing. One project I didn't mention was that we've begun the design and engineering phase of the Iron Bridge Road bridge in East Columbia, which if you've ever driven across Iron Bridge Road bridge, you know that it is not safe. And so that's a project that Vice Mayor Martin and others have championed for years, so we're excited about that. I did mention, though, the wastewater department and treatment station. That is probably our next in line major capital project. And when I say major, I'm talking about a capital project that would be more than $10 million that clearly would require borrowing. And so I am pleased that the city manager has begun conversation about what that would look like, because I do think that to the point of the question, the interest rates and the borrowing ability is so great right now. With the rates being so low, that's something that we'd really do well to look into to try to do that now, as opposed to pushing the can down the road, because we know when that happens, we have deferred maintenance and projects that end up costing us more long term.
Okay. I'll jump in too on because we just did just 2 or 3 weeks ago. I signed for we just did 2 bonds, and both of them was under 2%. Like 1.85, 1.6, something like that. I mean, I'd borrow money, all the time with those kind of rates, and that's incredible. And but those are moving toward our road projects that I talked about earlier. And but the next one would be that land preservation. In fact, Monday night at our board meeting, we will be talking about a pretty large land acquisition purchased by the city. And we may be borrowing some money while it is low.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Our biggest thing, and we've done this, the rate environment has been in our favor for well over a year, or right at it. We went through with Kate Collier, our city manager, and Loretta Gardner, our CFO. We went through and looked at doing some refinancing, and we were able to do that. We did not extend terms, and I want to reiterate, we did not extend terms. We took advantage of the rate environment. Once everything kind of settles itself out, we're going to save about $375,000 a year just in debt service coverage. And when you can do that in a community that's our size, that's a significant amount of money that can go towards these capital projects that are needing to be done, and we know they are, but you can't do it if you don't have the cash. So this is going to put us in a great position even 10 years down the road with that much debt service savings in any one given year. It's going to be huge.
I'll tie it because we did the same thing, and we, with that, one of those bonds, and we refinanced some old debt, and we had $4 million in savings.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we did that as well, and I mean, to your point, he's the banker, he knows. I mean, golly, the amount of savings that you can create for your municipal government over a long period of time, I mean, it makes total sense to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. A major role of this organization, in addition to advocacy and bringing our members to the elected officials or getting them together, is economic development. I will say, to echo some of the comments I've heard, we have, maybe a little bit to our surprise, if you would have asked me back in March, have remained very busy over the last 6 months, which I think is very exciting. How, in your view, is each of your municipalities supporting our initiatives as an economic development organization, and where do you see opportunities for improvements moving forward? Start with you, Mayor Mulder.
Well, of course, it's no secret that I am a huge fan and cheerleader for the Murray Alliance. I had the opportunity to serve as chairman of this organization a couple years ago, and also as chair of the Economic Development Council. And I've seen firsthand, both as a volunteer, the value of the organization, but also now as a mayor, the value of this organization. And we just so value the relationships that we have both with Will and with Kara and Travis and Nicole and everybody on staff, not to leave anybody out, but calling out the ones that I see. We believe that without the Mary Alliance, we would not be as well situated as we are as a city, and I truly mean that. Not just from an economic development standpoint, although there's no question that that is a tremendous value. We've seen that with the industrial park that y'all basically led the way on. We've also seen that with other projects that you're actively working on. But also on just the community side of things. And what we're doing here today is an exhibit A to the value that this organization brings, that we're promoting what we're doing, that we're putting out there, we're letting the public be aware of what's going on. The chamber coffees that provide a voice for someone who may be new to town and knows nobody, but gives them a platform to go meet people and talk about their business. I mean, you just can check so many boxes at this organization. And so that's why I'm proud that we have such a strong relationship, and I think going forward, that's only going to continue to get better.
Great. Mayor White?
Oh, Will, as you know, we're walking almost hand in hand. Cherry Glen is a cherry, without question. It's a great industrial park, but it's certainly, we understand the value in Mount Pleasant as well as everybody else does, but the value that the Alliance brings to us in Mount Pleasant is, there's no way we could replace it. I want to pay a compliment to you and your staff because it's always most helpful. Kayra and I go back a lot of years. I won't tell how many, but it's always a pleasure to be a part of this. You bring a great atmosphere to the table, one of working together and the good for everybody. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, Mayor White, hand in hand's not COVID friendly.
I know that.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, it us too, because we, again, Hubble's the same story. Being in a two-county city, we have Williamson Inc. on the north side, and you guys, Murray Alliance, on the south side. And our relationships with both are very good. In fact, you guys even do some cooperative things together a couple times a year, and that works well with us because we can be it's almost a collide of the world seeing everybody together on both sides because we're used to being at one or the other. And but you guys have done a great job. And right now, Spring Hill, we are revamping or restructuring our city EDC department. With Casey Williams moving over to Parks Director, we have that vacant. So while we have this, we're taking advantage of the time to look at the mission and see how we can work better with both the chambers, both the Alliance and Williamson Inc. So I think we'll come out stronger on the other end because of it. But our relationship, we cannot thank Murray Alliance enough, and it just continues to show with just more and more projects coming, and we got some exciting ones coming down soon.
Absolutely. Well, I'll take this as an opportunity to thank you all for your support of our organization. I think the relationships are probably stronger than they've ever been, I'd be willing to say, so thank you all. Staying on the topic of relationships, looking at each municipality, or do you believe the relationships between Columbia, Mount Pleasant, Spring Hill, and the county remain strong? If so, how do we continue to grow that? If not, how would you recommend maybe strengthening those?
I'll jump in there first. I know I'll use the word he used earlier, and that's the unity. And I believe people probably can sense it just here at this table this morning, and it's very strong. And it's the same for Spring Hill on the northern side too, the Williamson County side. That we continue to have good partnerships, and it's important for everybody to realize, none of us are on an island. No. We're all connected. It's a regional approach, and I believe when Nashville's transit thing failed a couple of years ago was because it was not a regional approach. And anything we do to help Middle Tennessee has to be done at that type of level.
Yeah, I totally agree, Mayor Graham and Mayor White sitting here. I mean, These guys are not just colleagues, but I see these guys as friends. I mean, Bill and I will call or text if there's, something going on, or Mayor Graham's the same way. And, that is something that I think maybe we take for granted, because not every, county and municipalities within are like that. I know, particularly even in the state of Tennessee, I've seen firsthand where you don't have those kind of relationships and the toxicity that might exist that just certainly does not exist here. But I think the reason that we have such unity is because Mayor Graham and Mayor White both believe in the concept that I strongly believe in as well, that is, what's good for Spring Hill is good for Mount Pleasant. What's good for Columbia is good for Spring Hill. And everybody can benefit from, a jobs announcement in one of the cities, or from the downtown development in Mount Pleasant. That is awesome. That's going to attract more visitors to Mount Pleasant. And you know what? In a lot of ways, to get to Mount Pleasant, you got to go through Columbia. And to get to Columbia, you got to go through Spring Hill. And so it flows up and down. But I think if we champion our entire region, we'll all benefit, instead of trying to sort of, it's us against them. And we certainly don't have that approach here. We're all in this together.
I'll second what Mayor Mulder and Mayor Graham had to say. Is we're in this together, and it feels that way. And I think you see it, and which is the unity is wonderful between us, because it's, as Chaz has said before, if it's good for them, it's good for us.
Right.
And I appreciate how these two gentlemen conduct themselves and what we're trying to do together. It's been fabulous.
Great. I've got one more question from the viewers before we kind of start to get into the closing statements, shall we say, as we're approaching our hour. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but to give you an opportunity to expand on it. So with companies, especially in larger cities, exploring more work from home options, you gave some great examples of some growth. I think we anticipate to continue to see that. What are your plans specifically to handle the current growth that's projected, and then maybe the increased growth as a result of some of the recent changes?
I'll be happy to start. We need, in Mount Pleasant, we need housing. It's real. We've got one development that's looking at it right now that we're working with in the Planning Commission. It'll be 47 homes, but we have an issue with homes. Mayor Graham, you're building them up there fast as you can get them out of the ground, and a lot of the same's going on in Columbia now. We just don't have the area to do that right now, and we're looking at that, and how do we try, understanding that this is private money, but how do we use some public money to try to encourage that private money investment? And that's one of the things we're really focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing some of the residential growth that was similar to what North Spring Hill was seeing in the last 5 years to 7 years. And so we're seeing firsthand that, there are a number of projects that have been, we've already met the number of projects where we were this time last year. We've already met the 2019 level, which means we're going to set another record this year. And so, again, I say that brings challenges, but that also brings opportunities. But I'll just point out one particular project that I would like to see that I think will provide some value is four-laning Bear Creek Pike. It's definitely on TDOT's radar, because every time I have any conversation with anybody at TDOT, whether it's the commissioner or someone here on the regional level, I'll point out Bear Creek Pike, and they always respond that they're aware, and that I know that Representative Sapicki and Curcio and Senator Hensley are aware and are lobbying for that. But when you consider the new interstate interchange that Spring Hill is going to get, and when you consider the totally redesigned interchange that we're going to have in the city of Columbia, the opportunity that a four-lane to Bear Creek Pike to push more of the traffic that's coming south to go to the interstate, to push them to go out Bear Creek Pike, will open up Saturn Parkway and some of the Highway 31, where we're seeing a lot of the congestion, particularly with the new interchange in Spring Hill. And so I think a four-lane Bear Creek Pike will fit perfectly into the plan of a new interchange and a redesigned interchange, and I think that will provide some relief to the traffic issues that we're seeing on 31 and Bear Creek Pike.
And for us, it's a continuation of the same. We continue, as Mayor White said, we continue to build new homes. And I think right at the end of August, we were about 671 permits. And so we're projected to be back in that high 800s again, which would be 3 years in a row that we've had close to 900. And now that's not up to the level that we had back 10, 15 years ago when we were at 1,500. And we're not keeping up with the infrastructure at that time. So that's the kind of growth level we do not want to get back to. We're kind of, I look at the 800s as kind of a high moderate level, you know, not probably to sustain that. It is challenging. It's not a little challenging, it is challenging. So, but I remind our citizens all the time that Mayor White was talking about, it's a lot better than the consequences of no growth, you know, because I get stopped at church every week, back when we went to church every week, live. You know, why don't you just stop the growth? And people don't understand the consequences of no growth. It's just about as bad as the consequences of turbo growth. So where you want to be is in that middle level, that moderate level, to where you can sustain, you know, because we're still playing catch up from the north side, and we're playing get ahead on the south side of Spring Hill with our growth. And so that's important to us, that we continue to learn from our past and prepare for the future better. Oh, I want to mention one more thing, impact fees. I know this Spring Hill, I think we just raised our impact fees, which is development charges for every one of those new homes. I think we've increased it 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years. We've had 3 bumps, and the growth still comes. Every time we increase the fees, if you listen to the developers and the builders, you know, they'll say it's just about all they can, you know, but they continue to build.
All right. Mayor Graham, I've got one specific question for you before we give everybody a chance to hit one last topic. Excuse me. You mentioned you're not seeking re-election.
Yep.
So I definitely want to take a minute to thank you for your dedicated service. It's been a pleasure to work with you. But as this maybe being the last time we have an opportunity to interact and ask, what would you see as the one greatest achievement that you're most proud of your time as mayor?
Well, I kind of hinted on it a while ago, because when I came in 2007, the city was about $3 million in the red. We had 0 property tax, and we had to bring the property tax back. We didn't have we had 170 employees then, with no HR director, no finance director in 2007. So with that, and with right into my mayor time, the cards I was given was that catching up on infrastructure. That's been our mission for my 8 years as mayor and my 14 years on the board. And I feel good leaving with so many projects ready to happen. We opened up Duplex last week, and even though that was a state project, I think we spent well over $12 million on that project. We bought 217 land parcels, right-of-way parcels, to make Duplex happen, which is the largest municipality right-of-way purchase in the state ever. It more than doubles any other municipality for right-of-way purchases. But that's the kind of dedication we have had to get these road projects going. Duplex was one of our first major accomplishments. Now we got to get the new interstate interchange. We got to get Highway 31 widening. That's the next phase. Buckner Road, Buckner Lane, and do all of that while making sure we get ahead on the south side.
Great. What
Thank you.
What advice would you give your successor?
Well, my successor is going to be able to look at not put all your eggs in one basket more like we have. I would have loved to had sitting in this building. By the way, this is so beautiful. One of my hopes and dreams back years ago was to have some kind of incubator type business set up in Spring Hill, and it's never happened. It's never happened. So I love this entrepreneur business. Something like this in Spring Hill would be great. You know, I mentioned the land conservation and in our downtown area. So I'm hoping our city leaders in the next 10 years, can start looking at some of those things. And also, I failed to mention our wastewater and water expansions that we have to do. That's pretty monumental. Just having to work with TDEC on those kind of things, it's very challenging. And so those are going to be big challenges for our future too. But the ones that follow me, I'm hoping that's what they look toward.
Okay, great. Then I'll start down at the end with Mayor White. Just a last question as we wrap up. Is there any last comments or thoughts that you want to share? Maybe something we didn't cover that you wanted to touch on?
No, just thanks for doing this. Last year I thought was a success when we did it in each community, and I tried to make sure I attended all. This is a good avenue for all of the people of the county to understand what's going on in one setting, and understand that we're all in this together.
That's right.
And we can't forget that. And let's continue and make sure that, and I know we will, but we continue to carry that on, Mayor Graham, with whomever may be your successor, that we continue this, because it pays big dividends for all of us. Again, I want to thank the Alliance for doing this. Your work is most helpful to all of us. And if we don't say it enough, I'm sorry, but we should say it more often, but thank you. Lastly, I would like to thank our employees of the City of Mount Pleasant, particularly over these last few days with this unprecedented flooding that we've had in each of our communities. But on Sunday, our group of people got out on their own and was helping everyone we possibly could. And that does not go unnoticed by me, nor does it go unnoticed by the residents. They see it. So a big shout out to those folks. Thank you very much.
Well, to echo everything Mayor White said, thank you to the Alliance, thank you to those who are watching, thank you to just the employees of our municipalities that are so vital. Mayor White mentioned the flooding on Sunday, and Mount Pleasant, I think, probably took the brunt of it, at least in Murray County. And you know, one thing that I was sent a text message Sunday afternoon that Columbia Fire and Rescue was providing some assistance. I think some other Murray County was providing assistance, and those first responders can provide a good example of how we need to act as elected officials, because when the city of Mount Pleasant was in need, the city of Columbia, Spring Hill, the county, they answered the call and went and helped their neighbor down south. They don't live in Mount Pleasant, but they wanted to help Mount Pleasant because that's how we operate in Murray County. And the first responders set an example how we can act as elected officials, but perhaps how we should all act as county residents, is we're in it together, we're on the same team. We can agree to disagree, but we agree on the important things of wanting to move Murray County forward in a positive direction.
Amen.
Okay. Mayor Graham, anything?
Again, thank you. Thank this Alliance today, and thank these gentlemen. This is a nice event, and we appreciate you guys hosting it.
Okay. I want to thank you guys for your time this morning. I want to thank you all who have tuned in. I do want to take advantage of this opportunity to just ask one thing for the viewers. We are in our strategic plan, year one of that. A big piece of that is workforce development. We are in the middle of a workforce alignment study. We are working with a Boyette Consulting, and we are really trying to seek feedback from 3 or 4 groups, that being the employers in Murray County, the employees, and then also our students. So those of you who are employers, everybody who's out there who are employees, whether currently working or looking for work, and then students, we encourage you to go to alignmurray.com, and there are surveys for each of those categories to complete. The more information we can collect, the more robust that study can be, and that's really going to drive our work over the next 4 to 5 years, and make sure that we have the workforce that is going to recruit the types of companies that we want and support the companies that we have. So I would humbly ask you to go check that out. I want to thank again our sponsor, JAYNESmedia.com, and our host, MULETOWN Collective. And please continue to follow us on social media, our website, and sign up for our weekly newsletters to keep up to date on our organization and what we're doing. So again, thank you all.